Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Latoya Wells with Wells Legacy Health and Wellness, welcoming you to another episode of Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Latoya Wells, NP. I am Dr. Latoya Wells. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I hold a doctorate degree in nursing, which is the DNP, which is where the doctor comes from. I am not a medical doctor. I like to put that disclaimer out there because some people say, that's my doctor. Yes, I am Dr. Latoya Wells, but I am your nurse practitioner. And so I just want to welcome you all here to another episode of Wellness Wednesday. As you all know, I do have my full service family practice office located in Altamont Springs, Florida. We're accepting insurances now. So give us a call if you have insurance and you'd like to know if we are participating in your insurances plan. We have several plans that we are participating with currently and more on the way. So I just wanted to take a moment and, put that plug in there. If you know somebody who's looking for a primary care provider, someone who will listen to them, someone who will take time to sit and talk to them and educate them and make sure that they are doing all the things related to their health, and someone who will partner with them on their healthcare journey, we're the person. I'm the person. Refer your family, friends, colleagues, whomever, person that you run into in the grocery store. You just happen to talk about, hey, I know somebody that's a primary care provider, nurse practitioner in Altamont. Give them our information. We can be reached at 321-306-6755. And you can catch us on all the social media platforms. If you have not done so yet, go over to YouTube and like and subscribe to our channel. We have some amazing things coming up, some podcasts, some listening things. I'm going to be partnering with different professionals in different arenas to provide you guys with some amazing topics and just a lot of new things coming for us. So tonight, we're going to be discussing a continuation of the topic that we talked about last week. Last week, we talked about back to school and mental health and how those kids are dealing with different things and how we recognize those things and what we can do. And my call to action last week was for you guys to share that information with a parent, someone that you know who has a child, whether it's a little baby going to pre-K or if it's a child that's returning, a young adult that's returning to college. That information is so important and it's very valid to where we are right now. The month of August is so important. Why? Because we have individuals that are going back to school this month. They've been out of school since May or June, right? And they were home for the whole summer. If we have the middle school, elementary, high school, high school, and college students, many of them may have been involved in different activities, summer camps, summer jobs, things of that nature. And so now we've kind of jumped back into regular routine, so to speak, of the normal day-to-day life with school. And that's for us working adults. Yes, many of us have to work. For those who don't, kudos to you. I can't wait till I get to that place where I don't have to work. But right now, I love what I do. And so it's a pleasure for me to show up each and every day for my patients and for those that I lead. And I'm just excited about it. So tonight we're going to be talking about back to school and all the things that come with that, right? It's perfect time to talk about it. I want to say this one thing. According to the CDC, healthy kids miss fewer days in school or from school and perform better academically. So what can we do to ensure that our kids are safe? What can we do to ensure that our kids are healthy? And I'm Nani. That's who I go by. I have a Mr. Joshua and Raylan. Call me Nani. My middle daughter made us, I'm too young to be called grandma. So I am Nani. But when we think about them and them going back to school, we want to make sure that they're healthy. We want to make sure that they're prepared and that they have all the things that they need in regards to their health and wellness. So I'm inviting you to participate in this conversation tonight. I know many of you may be catching it on demand, and if that's okay, go ahead and drop your questions and drop in the chat anything that you have or respond back to it. And I definitely will answer to you as soon as I can. So if you have any questions about anything that I have to say, please drop it in the chat. One thing I do want to put a disclaimer out here because I've noticed an increase in this. I cannot give medical advice over Messenger. Okay. I can't do that. So if you are having a medical issue and you would like to book an appointment with us, you can definitely book online. We offer again, insurances as well as self-pay. So if you're someone without insurance and you need to see one, we can definitely work something out to get you seen. But most likely, most definitely, I want to make sure that I am giving you the best outcomes and the best information. And I can't do that with a few symptoms that have been sent to me via messenger. So please reach out to us and we can definitely get you scheduled for appointment, virtual appointment, convenient care, meaning care in an area and environment that is convenient for you. If we have to come to you, we definitely can. And of course, we have our office. So back to the topic at hand. Physical exams and back to school readiness. Many of the kids are probably already back in school. However, I do know that there are some kids who had a delayed start to getting back in school because they didn't have their physical exams ready. If they were starting a new school, they didn't have those back to school physicals, and their vaccinations weren't up to date. The records weren't up to date. And so there's many different requirements that go along with making sure that our kids are prepared for going back to school. So one, the annual checkup. Why this matters for school performance. We want to make sure that one, they're healthy, they're not having any issues. If they have conditions such as asthma or allergies and things like that, we want to make sure that they have the medications that they need. Kudos to a parent who recently reached out to me. She has a kid who has severe allergies and deals with some reactive asthma and several things going on. And she needed to make sure that he got a physical exam and that he got the medications that he needed with the authorizations and the forms for the school to ensure that if he has any issues, that the school has the forms completed by a healthcare provider that will give them the permission and the authority to administer those medications to that child when he's at school. That is so important. If you have a child that has some medical conditions, that's a big part of their going back to school, is ensuring that they have all of the paperwork and all of the medications that they need to have on hand in case they have some issues while they're at school. And so it's important that we educate our kids, right, on if they have a specific symptom or condition or diagnosis, that they know what to watch for, that they know when to reach out for help or when to say something to one of their teachers or an adult at the school. Vaccinations, and this is a touchy subject for many people. Here, I'm going to put it out there. I partner with the parent. I can provide you with guidelines based on what I know from, my education and the training and updates that I get yearly, right, from my training with regards to vaccinations. However, I'm not going to beat any person over the head or any parent over the head when it comes to whether or not they vaccinate their child. That is solely up to the parent. I am a proponent for vaccinations, right? Because I got all of my vaccinations that were required and I did well. However, I understand due to certain restrictions, religious concerns or religious beliefs or affiliations or questions, unanswered questions, you name it. Some parents are just not sure whether or not they want to have their child vaccinated. And I will say this, that is your decision as a parent. However, many schools do require vaccinations or a declination form as to why you aren't getting your child vaccinated. And I'm here for it all, whether we're going to make sure they have all their vaccinations up to date, or you need that declination form, then we can get that taken care of for you. It's requirement. So they require different vaccinations at different grade levels and, plus the seasonal flu shot. And then we have the COVID vaccine and the RSV and all the things that are going on out in our society right now that we need to make sure that our kids are in line with, especially if it's a requirement for their school. Again, it's vision and hearing screening. And this is something that we'll do at each annual physical exam. Each year that child needs to be having their eyes examined. They need their hearing checked. And this is started at birth. When these babies are born, they're getting screened at birth. And if they happen to have some challenges, they're being monitored and watched closely throughout. However, as we get older, as the children get older, and now, we have all the technology and their screen time earlier than, some other kids were, we need to make sure that their eyes are okay. Make sure they're not having any issues with nearsightedness or farsightedness, that their pupils are responding and reacting, that they don't have any nystagmus or anything like that, and making sure that they're able to see. Often I get kids coming in complaining of headaches. And when we do their eye exam, these kids need glasses. And so ensuring that if they need glasses, that they're following up every year to make sure that their prescription is still valid. Do they need to go up in stronger prescription, what have you? And so these are all things that we need to do to make sure that our kids are ready for back to school. And if your child has not had their back to school checkup, schedule one with us this week. So let's get them ready to go, right? I've had children who have moved from different states, and we needed to make sure that their physical exams are on the Florida forms and that their immunizations are on the Florida forms. So it's important that we are following through on the things that are required when it comes to getting our kids back to school. How many of you already have your child checkup booked, right? Have already had it done? So if you're here and that's the case for you, put a thumbs up in the chat to let me know that, hey, I already got that taken care of. And if you need one, just DM me. If you need to get your child scheduled for a checkup, DM us so that we can get you scheduled. We'll have our assistant reach out to you to get you scheduled, get your child scheduled for their exam. I have an exam this Saturday because someone needed to get their child a physical exam before they go back to school. They're in private school and their school starts a little later. And so we're able to accommodate them. So if you've already taken care of it, put a thumbs up. And if you have not and you need to get that done, send us a DM and we can get you scheduled. The next thing that we want to talk about, which is so important as we're shifting from summer into a more, I won't say stringent routine, but a structured routine when it comes back to going back to school. Sleeping is so important. And one thing that I recommend, and one thing I did with my kids when they were school age, getting ready to go back to school, is a couple weeks before school started, we got back slowly into our sleep routine. Their bedtime, each week I would bring them closer and closer to their bedtime so that a couple weeks before them going back to school, they're already used to their normal schedule and their normal routine. So they're not struggling as much when it comes to now they got to get up at 5 o'clock to be at the bus, by 6:06 or 6:12, which is, and you're like 6:06, 6:12, those are random numbers. Well, those are the numbers, the time frame which the high schoolers in my neighborhood have to catch the bus. And I only know that because of our Facebook, our neighborhood Facebook page, but poignant for this conversation. And making sure that they're getting properly 9 to 12 hours of sleep for the school age kid. Tips for shifting the summer bedtime, as I mentioned, working on them gradually getting back into that routine, cutting screen time off at a certain point, having a structured routine. They get up by a certain time, they have breakfast get dressed by a certain time, have breakfast by a certain time, we're out the door. When we come home, they have some downtime, homework time. While they're doing homework, maybe have a snack, get ready for dinner, have dinner, some playtime, family time, individual time, and then it's bedtime. And so we are back in that routine Monday through Friday. And one of the things that's important is also on the weekends. Sometimes kids kind of get thrown off on their schedule on the weekends because it's the weekend, they sleep in later, they stay up later, and then Sunday night, they're scrambling to try and get back in routine, or Monday and Tuesday, because they've been up late, they're struggling as they begin their new week. So making sure that we have a structured routine for them. And each routine is going to look different for each child based on their age group. So if you have someone that's in preschool or kindergarten, their schedule may look different from someone that's in elementary, the older elementary kids, or those who are in middle school and high school, because their school start times have varying times. And so it's important that you work something that is individualized for your child. And if you have multiple children, then there's going to be some adjusting there that may take place based on the age of those children. Nutrition, making sure that they have a balanced breakfast. Breakfast feeds their mind. It helps them to stay focused. It helps them to kind of get that good jump start and have that energy and focus for the day. and making sure that they have healthy snacks that also provide focus and energy. So if they're a kid that takes their lunch to school, making sure we're packing those healthy lunches. Yes, some things that are going to help them and some good snacks and things of that nature, but a balanced lunch is going to be important. So much more is a breakfast, a balanced breakfast, making sure that they have what they need. I can tell you that I used to work the assignment as a school nurse. And I would have kids that would come in complaining of headaches, complaining of dizziness, complaining of nausea. And when I talk with these kids, they didn't have breakfast. They ran out of the house because they were running late and they didn't have breakfast. And so one of the things that I would do is I would keep little snacks in my office, cheese and things of that nature, and of course paying attention to any allergies that these kids may have, but having some really allergy friendly options for some of the kids who had allergies, who just could not, for whatever reason, have breakfast or didn't have breakfast provided for them at home. Physical activity, at least 60 minutes of physical activity a day. And this is important because they're at school, they're sitting in the desk from anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour for their classes. For those kids who are in elementary, they don't switch classes as much unless they have specials. And then for the middle school and high school, they're changing classes. And I'm not sure if physical ed or PE is still a requirement, right? So we got to make sure that they're getting some type of exercise. So that would be a great opportunity at the end of the day for family activity. Get out and get in the community and walk and exercise, or family gym time or what have you. But it's so important that for school days that we are able to build in time for them to get exercise and that physical activity in. If you have a home gym, if you're fortunate enough to have a home gym, then you're able, there's different things that they can do in there with supervision, depending upon their age. Or get outside. A family walk in the afternoon or the evening is definitely helpful, especially after you've had dinner. Everybody kind of puts on their walking shoes, tennis shoes, what have you, and get out and go for a walk. It's important. It definitely helps. And if you're not able to get a full 60 minutes, whatever you can do just to get them active, to help burn off some of those calories and energy and things of that nature, to help them be able to wind down for their nighttime routine. And then again, we talked about screen time. I'm not the screen time police. We want to make sure that we're setting a limit when it comes to how much time our kids have access to or are on their phones, tablets, or gaming systems. It's important. And I'll leave that up to you as a parent to determine what that looks like for your children. But it's definitely important that we set limits before school begins, because we don't want them distracted and we don't want them up all night on the game. And then when it comes to time for them to go to school, they're sleepy, they're lethargic, they're agitated because they haven't slept well. And then they don't perform well in school. And then if they're not sleeping, it can also impact their mental health, but also their immune systems, right? We know that our bodies need that time to replenish and refresh at night. And if we're constantly not doing that, we put ourselves at risk for contracting different viruses and illnesses that are out in the community. So it's so important. What's your go-to quick and healthy breakfast for a busy morning? Drop that information in the chat. Give some other parents some ideas. For me, I know my kids used to like waffles, and we love bacon. We're a bacon family. So waffles. They used to love waffles, and each child was able to pick their own breakfast of what they wanted that morning. And so as a parent who worked, many times, they were at daycare because I had to drop them off at after school or before school, and they would have a breakfast on the way there. Or if it was provided for them before school, then they would have breakfast there. Working as a nurse, many times I would have to be to work at 6:45. And so my husband and I had to tag team on days that I would have to go to work. Great thing, I only had to work 3 12-hour shifts. So there were other, depending on if I had to work weekends, I had more days during the week that I could be home with them. But we had to tag team. So what's a go-to quick, healthy option for breakfast? Drop the information in the chat for me. Next thing we talked about this last week was mental health. And I just want to recap that. I want to make sure that we understand that back to school anxiety is real. And we want to make sure that we're normalizing the feelings and that we're validating the feelings of these children, and that we are offering techniques and things that they could utilize to help them through it. Maybe they dealt with a bully. Maybe they dealt with isolation. Maybe they dealt with comparison and different things that many of us, even as adults, deal with. But our children don't have the coping skills that many adults have. And if we're being honest, there are some adults who don't have the coping skills that they need to be able to manage and work through those things. Bullying prevention. So teaching your kids on how to speak up for themselves and who to talk to if that's something that they're experiencing. There's been so many suicides, young kids taking their lives because of bullying. And so we have to make sure that we are having those tough conversations, that we're asking those open-ended questions with our children, not just how was your day? Did you have a good day today? Yes and no, and then let them go on about their day. Actually spending that time, quality time, finding out about their day and what they've experienced and who their friends are and things of that nature. And so we're talking about friends. So friendship skills, encouraging being inclusive and being kind to others. It pays nothing to be kind to someone. And we don't want to raise mean girls and mean boys and bullies, right? We want to raise children who are conscious of other people's feelings and who can speak to people with respect, the way that they want to be treated, that themselves, but the way that person wants to be treated. That's the golden rule, and I stand by that. And parenting, your role, daily check-ins after school, as we talked about, and then those open-ended conversations, those questions, and giving them space and time to vent. One thing that I learned, and I learned this from a mentor of mine, as my children became adults, I'm always a fixer. So I'm always quick to jump in and try and fix the problem. But now I'm learning that, okay, do you want me to just listen or do you need a solution? And in speaking to and dealing with my 3-year-old Nani's baby, Raylan, when she's having a temper tantrum, there's something going on and she's not able to verbalize what it is that she's going through. And so instead of getting upset and telling her, like I remember, you better quit crying before I give you something to cry about. I remember being told that, and hush, girl, what you crying about? So different things like that, but finding out what's going on. They don't have the emotional intelligence to really help navigate through that. So they need us as the adults to help walk them through that path. So this weekend we had an episode with Raylan in the mall. She wanted to get on this little thing that rides around the mall, these little animals, that motorized animals that they can get on. And she didn't understand that she couldn't get on it right then, that we had some other things we needed to do. So I kind of pulled her off into the corner and got on her level and talked to her. And we were able to walk through it. And so that's sometimes all our kids need, the ability to be able to talk and for someone to know that for them to know that they are heard. Parents, what's one question you ask your child every day after school? What's one question you ask them? Is it a yes or no question, or is it an open-ended question? And do you provide the liberty and freedom for them to speak their truth and speak how they feel with respect, right? With respect. That's one thing I always allowed for my kids, was the opportunity to come and talk. And if they just needed to vent or talk, and to this day, they do that, whether it's by text or whether it's on the phone. And so I'm grateful for that. When it comes to illness prevention, they're back at school, they're around people, more people than they have been, right? And disclaimer, I want to put this out there. COVID has not gone anywhere. COVID is still out there. The flu is still out there. These bugs and viruses are still around. And we're seeing a huge uptick in COVID cases over the recent weeks and months. So we want to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, and that we're doing whatever we can do to prevent illness. So hand washing, proper hand washing. And one of the things that I remember when I was in nursing school is we went to a kindergarten class and we taught hand washing skills. And I can remember putting the powder on there and having the glow light and showing these kids how quickly germs can spread. And if someone's coughing in their hands and they're touching something else, or if they're sneezing and they're touching something else, then they're quickly spreading germs. We're walking into doors, we're touching the handles, we're touching stuff that other people have touched, and we don't know how their hygiene is. So proper hand washing, and the length of time is the time that it takes for you to sing happy birthday in a normal cadence, happy birthday to you, twice. So as you're washing your hands, you're singing happy birthday twice. And by the time you get to that end of the second happy birthday, you can go ahead and dry your hands. And then you're going to use the paper towel to open the door and then discard that paper towel. Covering your cough and sneezes and avoiding sharing utensils and drinks. We see it happening all the time. Middle school, elementary school, even some high schoolers will share drinks. Hey, you want to try this? And they're sipping off of cups. And they're, all the things. Making sure that we're using proper hygiene and managing allergies and asthma. Important, as we mentioned earlier, about the one kid who had some allergies and some reactive asthma. Made sure that he had all of the information and all of the medications with the authorizations that were required and provided to the school and the nurses and the teachers. So when you're filling out those paperwork, and I don't know about you guys, I don't know if it's still the packed stacks of paper that come home or if it's online, but there's a lot of paperwork with a lot of information. And sometimes you're just kind of rushing through it. I'm guilty. I've been there. But make sure you're providing all of the information that's important and that needs to be conveyed or communicated to the school. And if anything, make sure you're going in and you're having those conversations with the counselors and with the teachers and with the nurses or what have you. And then recognizing the signs of illnesses. So when to keep the kids home. If they're coughing, they have a fever. If they're vomiting, if they're having diarrhea, if they're sick, we want to keep them home. And I understand that many parents have to work. And I get it. I've been there. But we want to make sure that if we ourselves are sick or if the kids are sick, that we're keeping them home and that we're not sending them to school because we're spreading germs. Who here sends hand sanitizer to school with their kids in their backpack? I know that many times that's still on the school list. Is that still on the school list? Provide me a response back in the chat if that's the case. Because again, I don't have school-age kids, but I can remember when it was on the list and it was much needed, the hand sanitizer. So are you someone that sends sanitizer with your kids in their backpack? And yes, sanitizer is good if they don't have access to water, right? But we want to make sure that if they have access to water, that they're utilizing the water over hand sanitizer. And then safety awareness. We have many children that are walking to school, they're catching the bus, they're going in the car rider line. We want to make sure that we are using safety and using our common sense. Today, I was headed out to go visit a provider, and there's a bus, and you see this car just blow through the signs on the bus. And I was just like, oh my goodness, thank goodness there was not a kid coming across the street or they would have gotten hit. So it's things like that we can do to prevent. Leave a little early if you think you're going to be running late. School is back in session. There are going to be buses on the road. There are going to be people dropping their kids off. And so we need to pack our patience and we need to leave in time so that we're not rushing and potentially putting someone's life in danger. So school bus safety, waiting in the safe spots, crossing in front of the bus and not behind. I can remember there was a story last year or the year before, unfortunate event. A little kid got off the school bus, had his basketball or what have you, and went under the bus to get the ball and ended up losing his life. So just making sure that we're having those conversations with our kids. Backpack safety. Say that quick 5 times. Backpack safety. So keeping the weight of the backpack under 10 to 15% of that child's body weight. And I know many kids carrying a lot of books, and those backpacks can get heavy, which can cause back problems, shoulder problems, muscular problems, and then headaches. So we want to make sure that we are being mindful of that. Many schools now are not providing the actual textbook. They're providing computers for the kids with the textbooks online. So that alleviates some of the heaviness within the backpack. And then playground safety for those kids who are going to be outside playing on the playground, appropriate footwear, right? If they're going to be outside, we want to make sure that they have the correct shoes, and then making sure that there's supervision, which there should be at school. And then personal safety, knowing when and who is a trusted adult, and safe routes to take to and from school if there is a child who's walking, utilizing the buddy system, utilizing car riding, making sure that there's a parent trained, if there's a parents are taking turns walking the kids to school or waiting at the bus stop. I know our community is in we used to be surrounded by woods, and there would be a lot of wild animals out. And so there was always a parent at the bus stop, or we would wait in the car with our child until the bus came to ensure that they were safe. So just some things to do. But another question, parents, do you do a safety walkthrough with your kids before school starts? Walking them to school, making sure that the path is correct or safe, making sure you kind of do the drive-by with the bus stop and things of that nature. So what do you do beforehand to prepare your children for safety? So in closing, I want to just kind of recap a few areas. One, readiness, making sure that your child has their physical exam, all of their immunization, whatever required forms that are needed for starting back to school. Routines, getting into a habit of working them, building them up slowly to get into their back to school routine, changing their bedtime, a couple weeks ahead of time to ensure that they are getting the proper amount of sleep. Wellness, making sure that they are eating well, that they are exercising, that they're drinking an amount of water and whatever vitamins or medication that they're supposed to be taking. Illness prevention. 1, hand washing, staying home if they are sick, knowing what signs and symptoms to look for, or when to get them help, when to get them care, when to bring them into a provider's office. And then safety, making sure that they have a safe route to school, making sure that if they ride their bike, that they have the helmets, that they have the lighting on the bikes if they're going to be riding early in the morning. And we're getting ready for time change here coming up, where it's going to be darker earlier in the morning when most of the kids are walking to school. So making sure that they have those safety things in place. I want to invite you all to follow our page for more health tips, health and wellness tips. So if you're currently following the page, I want to challenge you to invite 5 people to come and join our page. Share this page with them. Also, go to YouTube, like and subscribe our YouTube channel. We're going to have some amazing things coming up for you all there. And then I want to make sure that you know that we have a back to school health checklist. So DM us for that if you'd like to receive it and you want some more information. And I just want to encourage you with this. A healthy start to a school year sets the tone for success for the rest of the year. So let's make this year the best yet by doing all the things that we need to do to make sure that our children, whether they're little or those young adults headed back to college or beginning college, are set up in advance for the best year yet. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This is Dr. Latoya Wells with Wells Legacy Health and Wellness. If your child is not feeling well and you need a quick visit, we offer early morning, evening, and weekend. I mean, as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, as early as 6 o'clock in the morning, we can offer visits that early. We are flexible. We can come to you. If you are sick or you're not feeling well, we can come to you. We offer virtual visits, and we also offer in-office visits. So reach out. Be sure to share the page. Invite someone to come. My ask of you is comment. Tell me how well I'm doing. Tell me if there's something that you'd like to hear, and share the page. And again, if you want that back to school health checklist, DM us so that we can get that information over to you. This has been an amazing night. Thank you all so much for joining me. This is Dr. Latoya Wells with Wells Legacy Health and Wellness. Stay safe and be well. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.